for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Welcome. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. Today's Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. 36 days into the new year, just 329 days left. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of beautiful downtown Burbank, California for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planet. I am your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking? How you doing? How you doing? I got an email today that said, Jimmy, you are truly the Howard Stern of UFOs. I was like, all right, I'll take that. I haven't had any strippers in the bunker though, but all right. I need a. I'm just gonna let that go. I did get the email though. All right, let's do this tonight. Very special guest is joining us. UFO researcher Michael Shratt is here. We have got a lot to talk about tonight with Michael, one of the great researchers in ufology. And yes, I leaked it out. I went and sat down with Michael for a few hours and went through some of his, couldn't do it all. There's way too much there. It would take weeks, but went through a bunch of his files. And he gifted me, are you ready? You guys, you're going to be so jealous. He gifted me this. Yeah. His favorite top secret reports. Wouldn't you want to know what is in here? Look at this. Look at this illustration right here. Look at that. That's what's on the top. Look. Don't you want that? All right. So there's that. We have got a lot to talk about tonight. And I haven't broken my silence with Michael here because tonight's going to be a very special show, and the timing of it couldn't be better. So I will let all of that fly at the bottom of the hour when we bring Michael in. Okay? All right. See, tomorrow's a very special surprise guest. We will make that announcement tomorrow morning. And Thursday's another Fader night. Open lines all night long. Friday, I'm off. Saturday, Sunday, I am over hosting Coast to Coast AM. Okay? All right, then we kick off another Monday. Pretty soon, I can't even believe it, is the Conscious Life Expo. That's coming up very quickly here on us, too, as well. And, okay, a couple of things. I got, and I meant to show everybody this. It doesn't get any better. and it finally made its way to the bunker, and so I can do this. But I got a Christmas card, Rita and I did, from Alan Wenner, and here it is. Right? Nice, very lovely Christmas card. But it's who sent it to me? Fader 1 and Fader 2. Evan and Sean. And it came with this. I got a bumper sticker. Get lost in Montana. That's pretty cool, right? But it doesn't stop there. Check this out. I got Evan and Sean's Fader 1 and Fader 2. Somebody post up the Fader 1 and Fader 2 in Twitter. Fader 1 and Fader 2 from Soltech. I got their football cards from Flag Football. Yeah, check it out. I got their football trading cards. How cool is that? And I want to thank Evan and Sean. These guys, how cool is that? Okay, these are proudly displayed in the bunker now. And I got Fader 1 and Fader 2 trading cards. And it just doesn't get any better. Check that out. Okay, so proudly displayed right here in the bunker. They are the ones that found that Bigfoot footprints up at ECETI. Yep. Along with Rajan and Kelly's son. Okay, so I'm getting too sideways here, but this stuff lights me up. Right there. That's what happens when you're a parent. And more on that in just a bit. Follow us on all of our social media, on Stellar, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Everything's Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. It's easy to do. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Okay, and you can go now and follow, like, and subscribe over on our website. And the hashtag F2B is the sandbox in Twitter. So come and hang out. Okay? All right? Lots of conversation goes down in that sandbox. Our questions or comments is hashtag F2BQ. Email is Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, breaking news. Just 4 hours ago, Gabriel and Sherry Teigen welcomed into the world their son, Apollo James Finley Teigen. Yeah, born at 2:47 p.m. at 8 pounds, 4 ounces, and a strapping 20 inches long. And we have posted up in Twitter. Oh, what's Gabriel? He's in the hospital and tweeting, and, and he's listening to the show. Congratulations, you two. We have another Fader Tot in the family. I just cannot believe it. Fader Tot, congratulations. Everything's healthy. He is absolutely handsome. And check him out. Look at his hands. That is a healthy, big baby. Oh, Sherry made sure. Oh, that is just amazing. And I got tears in my eyes. That is just great. Congratulations, you two. And it is a great name, by the way. Apollo James. Yeah, beautiful. Welcome. Congratulations. And nothing like a life ahead. It's just the best feeling in the world. It's the life. You just get to sit and wonder, oh, look at what? I didn't see this picture. Oh, man. Look at his blankie. It's got Bigfoot prints on it. You guys are too much. Congratulations. Absolutely wonderful. Nothing like it. Okay. All right. Start making plans, you two. Get the savings account going. You're going to start making promises right now in the hospital. You can have whatever you want. You're my boy. Anything you want. Well, you got to stick to it. All right. 4 hours ago. Congratulations, Gabe and Sherry. Absolutely amazing. All right. At 6 p.m. tonight, right before the show, President Trump gave his State of the Union address, and I didn't watch it. I was busy prepping for the show. I'll I'll watch the replays and get caught up on all the notes with everything. But hopefully it didn't take away from our numbers tonight. But if so, I understand. But thankfully, it happens just once a year. Other news today, big news. The pilot of the twin-engine plane that broke up in the sky and slammed into a house here in Southern California, the pilot was carrying a fake police badge before the fatal crash. And I don't know if you've seen the pictures. This plane just drops out of the sky. It doesn't fly. It just comes straight down and crashed into this house, killed 4 people in the house and the pilot. The pilot's name, Antonio Pastini, 75 years old, of Gardnerville, Nevada. He was identified as the pilot. Authorities initially believed he was a former police officer because they found the badge on him, but have since learned that he was not affiliated with the Chicago Police Department. Now, that makes you wonder. And then apparently he had some documents with him, too. They're not talking about that just yet. But he wasn't a cop. It was a fake badge. Yeah. All right. Now, last night, this is not conspiracy stuff. This is real. This is Los Angeles. And the city is freaking out. Because after the show last night, black helicopters started showing up all over Los Angeles. Twitter went crazy. The news went crazy. Film, video, pictures, witnesses, freaking people out. They have been seen and filmed all over Los Angeles. One landed last night on Wilshire Boulevard. Wilshire. It's like the main drag. Here in L.A., we've got Sunset Boulevard, Hollywood Boulevard, Wilshire Boulevard, Santa Monica Boulevard, Ventura Boulevard. Those are the main streets. You know, you can kind of add in Cahuenga and Highland. There are other, but the main thoroughfare and the main Wilshire Boulevard. So it lands on Wilshire, and then these troops, armed, come running out of this high-rise building, and this was shot from a news helicopter above. And also witnesses that were shooting out of windows. And nobody announced anything, right? Troops run out of the building, board the helicopter, and then fly away, freaking everybody out. Meanwhile, and that was a lone helicopter, overhead, this is very crazy stuff. Overhead, there were formations, huge formations, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 helicopters flying in the dark without their lights on. So today, and this is going all over LA. So today they make this announcement, the Army, and says, "Oh, okay, excuse us, but we're doing drills, urban drills. We're trying to keep our troops trained in urban situations." Yep. And they are saying that the exercises will continue in Los Angeles and Long Beach from last night through Saturday. It's crazy. It's crazy. Go on Twitter. Go do a search. Take a look what's been going on. Flying low and loud without their lights on. Yeah, freaked this city out last night. It wasn't cool. I always hear about black helicopters, and then boom, it starts jumping off right here in Los Angeles. All right, come and join us for the 2019 Conscious Life Expo right here in Los Angeles without the black helicopters. Hopefully at the LAX Hilton, February 22nd through the 25th. Today is February 5th. You do the math. It's 2.5 weeks away. We will be there. All right, now Friday night, I do have an announcement to make. Friday night, I will be hosting the panel with Eric Von Daniken, the Ancient Aliens panel, celebrating the 50th anniversary of Chariots of the Gods. But that panel starts at 7 p.m. on Friday. It's listed as 8 p.m. in the printed program. It's 7 p.m. on the website. It's 8 p.m. in the printed program, so you don't want to be an hour late to that. I will make the announcement every night on the show, and we will do what we can during the day there. But yeah, it's a printing error. They made a mistake, but it happens. We'll make the announcement, and then we'll just run with it. Okay, but panel starts at 7 p.m. on Friday. You've got to get your tickets in advance. Go and check it out at ConsciousLifeExpo.com. All right? Okay. Then our next event after that is Contact in the Desert, May 31st through June 3rd. Go to contactinthedesert.com. Following that is our 2019 Soul Tech Conference over the July 4th weekend at Sunrise Ranch in Loveland, Colorado. You've got to register and get on the waiting list for tickets, and you do that at soultechgathering.com. Okay, all right, let's go. Oh, by the way, Hoffman's Optics, right? The makers of the Jimmy Church night vision goggles will be with us at the Conscious Life Expo. So you want to stop by our booth there, and you can also go to hoffmansoptics.com and check out all of the night vision gear, the blue chrome balls. All right. Now, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. It's just $2 per month. Go to the podcast banner and you can at jimmychurchradio.com, and also become a Fade or Not in our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Happy birthday to today, Guns N' Roses original gangsta, Duff McKagan. Today is the big double nickel, 55 years old. On this day in history, 1869 OTD. The biggest gold nugget in history is found. It was called the Welcome Stranger, and it was found in Australia and weighed in at over 156 pounds. Wow. Fader fact, a 1996 federal law allows restaurants to donate leftover food without getting sued. And nobody has ever tried to file a lawsuit against a restaurant over donated leftovers. That's an amazing fact, but yet we throw it all away. We waste. That's a 1996 federal law right there. So all those restaurant owners out there listening to me right now, donate your food. Donate. Doesn't it bother you? You got a half a steak, right? A half a baked potato. You got that. You got what, and you're just like, I'll just have dessert, and what? It's wasted. What do you do, right? Donate leftover food. All right, here we go. Tonight, Michael Shratt is here. Tomorrow morning, we will make our announcement with our very special surprise guest tomorrow. Thursday is another Fader night, open lines all night long. Now, River Moon Coffee. I remember 5 years ago when I had a little debate on the show with a guest about Bitcoin. Now, I can't remember who it was, can't remember the guest, but that's not what is important here. What is important is that I spent a couple of weeks after that talking about it here and there, Bitcoin. And Rita said to me one night, I'm serious too, this was 5 years ago, enough Bitcoin. I'm done hearing about Bitcoin. And that was back in the day, right? Back then, very few knew much about it. Okay? You kind of had to be a little bit of a techie, a little bit on the inside, to know anything about, to even have heard about Bitcoin. But I had followed it since its creation, when it was first announced and how it was done, and the software behind it and the blockchain. I was immersed. I was fascinated with it. And remember last year when I did my Beanie Baby comparison? Well, sometimes it sucks to be right. And I do feel bad for those who jumped in at the wrong time and lost a bunch of money. But I did warn you. Bitcoin and crypto markets have been hurting now for more than a year. I keep you posted right here on the show. I bring it up every couple of days. As a matter of fact, right before showtime, it just took a serious dive. It's 33.80. And if you go to CoinDesk, Bitcoin price, and look at what it just did in the last 20 minutes. Look at that. Just a complete nosedive. And I try to keep everybody posted, and I've tried to warn everybody, and I've tried to stay on top of this, but that is not what I'm trying to get to. Okay? Bitcoin, here's the harsh reality. Okay? Because I was very public about it. I talked about the Beanie Baby thing and what Bitcoin probably is and where it will end up. And I've said, $1. Well, yeah, being public is pretty tough. But if I'm wrong, okay, so be it. A little egg on the face is okay once in a while. But again, here's the harsh reality. Bitcoin topped out at $20,089 per token on December 17th, 2017, the day after the day of disclosure. That record price was a 24,600% return in 52 short weeks. That's amazing. But the coin nosedived from those all-time highs just as quickly as it skyrocketed. Bitcoin is now roughly $3,300 per token. That's 90% below the record from 2017. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's design makes it harder and harder for its miners to create another unit. Bitcoin mining may not make any economic sense anymore. The electricity needed costs more than the coin. That's right. The tipping point has already passed for many of those miners out there. For others, it will come quickly. What will happen to the Bitcoin market when even the biggest and most efficient mining operators can't justify creating new tokens at some kind of unprofitable payout rate? What's going to happen? The most obvious outcome? It's going to fade to black. According to a fresh report from J.P. Morgan, the average production cost is about $4,060. It's trading for $3,300, people. These expenses are based on using the most efficient cryptocurrency mining chips available. So if you don't have the most up-to-date tech, you're out. Can't afford it. At this point, profitable mining is restricted almost exclusively to the Chinese. And you know how the Chinese do it? They tap in to other electrical sources. That's how they do it. They make deals with manufacturing businesses and factories, and they're like, hey, man, let us tap in and we'll pay you. That's only going to ride for so long. You don't have that luxury in other countries around the world. But miners in places like Iceland and the Czech Republic are still increasing their output, and they're hoping to cash in when Bitcoin has this crazy rebound and it skyrockets back up to $20,000. But for now, those operators can't really make ends meet. Miners without a serious cash cushion, right? Cash in their mattresses. They won't be able to keep the lights on for much longer, let alone eat. It's a natural thinning of the herd. And this is what is nuts. If Bitcoin prices continue to drop, it'll be a hard crash to zero. And that hard crash to zero is going to come lightning quick. Because when the mining shuts down, it would eventually become impossible to trade. to transfer, or to otherwise use Bitcoin at all. In other words, Bitcoin would truly become worthless in every sense of the word. It'll just fade to black. Or maybe not. Let's say the weak ones, the ones at the back of the herd, they shut down, right? They leave the Bitcoin mining business altogether, and they turn it over to the Chinese. The rate of freshly minted Bitcoin tokens will slow, but it doesn't stop. People and businesses continue to see some possible value, right? And maybe they use them for moving monetary assets, right, around the world clandestinely, avoiding the banking system. And according to the economic theory of supply and demand, the way that I run my life, I'm an American, right? If something is scarce, the value increases. If the imbalance is lopsided enough, we're looking at the opportunity for another round of the skyrocketing Bitcoin prices, but probably not. This is what they're hoping for in Iceland and Czechoslovakia. They're hoping for that right now, right? They're hanging on. They're continuing to mine Bitcoin at a loss. But if it goes back up to 20,000 or more per coin, what they are mining today could be worth billions of dollars, right? So Bitcoin right now is headed in the direction on a map for a very, very important test. That's right. Bitcoin needs to prove its worth, its real world worth, right? Is it a commodity? Is it currency? As a commodity, it doesn't hold water. As a currency, what it was designed to be used for, that's its worth. Okay? Now, I wonder when the next dive downward, like what just happened right before the show, is going to be the last one, right? Where it's not going to recover. It's just going to go straight down. But when it gets close to zero, I'm all in. I swear I am. Seriously, I'm in. There's nothing like loading up on a penny stock just for giggles. Wait a minute, that's it. I just thought of something. We'll call it Bitpenny. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Michael Shratt is here. Bitpenny. Bitpenny. I wonder if Michael's got some Bitcoin. I've got all the secret stuff, secret files. We've got some illustrations that are going to go up. Had a great meeting with him over the weekend. He's one of the best. So tonight, get warm, get comfortable, get your drink, get your blankie. It's Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. It's really that simple. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. I'm telling you, it sucks to be right. Remember Beanie Babies. I'll be right back.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on JimmyChurchRadio.com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black.
The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black Blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hey folks, guess what the number one phrase that Life Change Tea receives by email? You ready? We love this tea. We love this tea. Time after time, week after week, we love this tea. Life Change Tea gives you more energy, a beautiful cleansing, and fulfills its slogan perfectly. The tea that makes you go. So if you want to be on your health game, log on to getthetea.com and order Life Change Super Strength Tea. Packages come in a 1-month supply, and when you brew this stuff, wait until you see the results. Aren't we all about the results? And with a lot of people's health struggling, we can use a little bit of help. Doctors will tell you disease starts in the gut. So log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Be our next email saying, I love this tea. I love this tea. Get the tea at getthetea.com. Helping America one tea bag at a time.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Do you want to lose weight but have no idea where to begin? The Fast Start Diet, a 3-day weight loss plan, is the answer. 3 days of nutritionally balanced, calorie-restricted meals delivered right to your door. No shopping, no measuring, and no cooking. Everything is prepared for you and ready to eat at home or on the go. The Fast Start Diet has all the amazing benefits of intermittent fasting without starving. We've helped thousands of people who have struggled to reach their weight loss goals. Isn't it time we helped you? With the Fast Start Diet, you'll lose weight and feel great.
Find Fast Start Diet on Amazon or go to faststartdiet.com and use promo code TALK to get 10% off your first box. And as a special bonus, Fast Start will include their #1 rated Lipo3 appetite suppressant spray free with your order. This is Jimmy Church. And whatever your diet plans are, do what I did. Go to faststartdiet.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Michael Shratt. Tomorrow night, very special surprise guest. Going to announce that tomorrow. Thursday night is open lines. Fader night. Friday, taking the day off. Housework. Friday and Saturday, I'm over at Coast to Coast AM, hosting all weekend over there. Trying to stay dry, trying to stay warm. Tonight, it's Michael Shratt. He's a private pilot, military, aerospace historian, has lectured across the country on the unique subject of mystery aircraft and classified propulsion systems buried deep within the military-industrial complex. He's guest speaker at Oshkosh, the Air Venture 2006-2007 event, the world's largest air show. Michael has developed a number of contacts which have first-hand experience dealing with classified black programs, including former USAF pilots, retired Navy personnel, and aerospace engineers that have maintained a top-secret SCI security clearance. In an effort to expose government fraud, waste, and abuse, Michael devotes much of his free time researching aerospace technical documents, conducting interviews, and traveling to multiple university archives. As a concerned citizen, it's his belief that it is our constitutional obligation to question authority and demand an accounting of unacknowledged special access programs that bypass congressional oversight and public scrutiny. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, Mr. Michael Shratt. Michael, good evening. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy, thank you so much.
It's great
to be with you.
Yeah, and it was great hanging out with you this weekend, and I popped up a picture of us at a top secret Starbucks, right? So, but I tweeted it out, and the response from everybody was pretty cool. And they didn't see me, they didn't see you, they saw the binder, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. What's in the binder, man? I want to know what's in that. It was pretty funny. And and you've got a lot of respect out there in the community, and that kind of respect that you have, it's earned. It's something that you have fought long and hard for. But there's something that comes along with that, Michael, and that is you have to choose your words wisely now because people look to you for intelligence. They expect it, right? Do you find yourself doing just that? You can't ever step out of the box and be a doofus. You got to be the smart guy in the room all the time.
I think to a certain degree, yes, but on the other hand, I'm still below the radar screen, Jimmy. I'm still small fries, and that's okay. That's all right.
Is that by intention, by the way?
No, that's okay. I do this as a crusade, and I feel that since a lot of these programs we've already paid for it once, why should we pay for it again? I feel that it should be free of charge, and that's what I've done. All my crossword puzzles, my lectures, YouTube, everything I've done, it's basically been free of charge, and I feel that that's the way it should roll. And we were talking kind of last Saturday regarding classified programs, what the Air Force has, and kind of made the point that the U.S. Air Force is nothing more than a temporary custodian of those assets because we, the taxpayer, we own the runways, we own the buildings, the hangars, the facilities, the aircraft. We pay for the salary of the employees that work there. So we have every right to question authority, and that's my mandate.
Well, and there's something else that goes along with flying under the radar. You are able to, because they're going to talk to you because you're not out there blabbing. Right. And so you're able to gain confidence. And that's probably more important than anything, because if they think you're just going to run around and blow their cover or do something that exposes them, then they're not going to talk to you. And your reputation is tarnished.
That is true. That is true. Now, when you were reading that intro, I'm not lying when I said that, I actually have spoken to some of these people who've worked in black programs, like people on the B-2 stealth program, the Have Blue program, the F-117A stealth fighter. I actually have spoken to these people, recorded them on videotape, so I've got their stories down. And, a couple of them have mentioned that they'd like to keep it under wraps, so that's what I've done.
Well, and I'm not going to throw you completely under the bus, but I'm gonna tell the audience, give them a little inside of like they're sitting there with us. So I sit down with Michael and I go, okay, man, first thing out of my, what brings you to town? And you're like, man, I'm researching. I'm out interviewing anybody that is involved with the B-2 program. And that's what you were down here doing, and
that's correct.
That is one of the, I hate to say this, but it's like boots on the ground. You can do stuff from your home, you can research on the internet, but it's another thing to invest your time, money, resources, and getting out there and reaching out. And here in Burbank, which is where Michael and I met, was right here in the middle of everything, where all of this stuff, this is ground zero. Most people think of Burbank, they think of the entertainment industry. If you are in black projects, right, if you're in the aviation industry, Burbank is the center of that technology and has been since the very, very beginning.
Well, since the Skunk Works was formed in '43 under Kelly Johnson, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Anywhere from San Diego all the way up the Pacific Coast Highway into Hawthorne, into Burbank, into Air Force Plant 42, Edwards Air Force Base, and then Mojave at Scale Composite. That whole area there, Jimmy, that aerospace alley, that's the most important part that we could focus in on.
Yeah, and the Mojave, the space complex, and Lockheed and Skunk Works, that is just right up the road from Burbank. There's just mountains that are in between. It's not but a 30-40 minute drive. It's right there.
Mm-hmm. The other thing to keep in mind too is the first flight of the Have Blue prototype demonstrator took place December 1st, 1977 at Area 51. Ben Rich was there. Kelly Johnson was there. Think about how long that's been. If someone doesn't go around and preserve an important part of our national history, we're going to lose it all.
Yeah.
We're going to lose it all because, in many cases, the defense contractors like Boeing, Lockheed, McDonnell Douglas, General Dynamics, when they are paid by the quote-unquote customer, be it the Air Force or the CIA, when they're paid to do something by the customer, and the customer says, I want you to scrap this program and scrap the details, they throw out everything. Even if it's something, that was designed in-house and everything, if the customer pays for it, they throw it out. That means all the pictures, the drawings, the illustrations, the historical documents all get shredded. And this has happened many, many times. And there's a lot of these programs that were born black, died black, we'll never hear anything about it.
Now, it's one thing to talk about the B-2 or the F-117 and their shapes, right? They look UFO-ish, black triangles from a distance. It could be anything to the untrained eye, and they fly very quietly. Most people don't understand that until you hear them fly. You're going to see it, but you're not going to hear it. And certainly, if it's approaching you, you're not going to hear it until it's right overhead. So a lot of these black projects, like the B-2 and the 117, may have been confused for UFOs in the past. I understand that. I may have made the same mistake myself, but that doesn't mean that the TR-3B and other black projects that resemble black triangles are out there flying and we don't know anything about it. What do you think about that statement?
Well, one way I would answer that, and keep in mind that Lockheed has their Skunk Works, used to be at Burbank, now that it's over at Air Force Plant 42, actual Plant 10 is where it's located. But McDonnell Douglas, they had their own Skunk Works called the Phantom Works. General Dynamics, they have their own little Skunk Works too. So Lockheed isn't the only player in this game. The other thing to keep in mind, and we've talked about this before, Jimmy, are the significant statements made by Ben Rich before he passed away. He was the head of Skunk Works between 1975 to 1991. Really quickly here, number one, he said, anything you can imagine the Skunk Works can do or has already done. And then the other one was said in 1995, just before he passed away, when Jim Goodall got a telephone call into him at the hospital there. And Jim Goodall heard this directly from Ben Rich. Ben Rich said, we have things in the Nevada desert that are 50 years beyond what you can comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. So the implications, Jimmy, of what that means is just staggering.
And it's coming from Ben Rich. Right,
directly from Ben Rich.
Yeah, it's coming from Ben Rich, and those two quotes are amazing, and that's just a whole portion of what Ben Rich has leaked out over the years in confidence with friends. He has made some pretty incredible statements, and I recommend everybody to go and read his book Skunk Works by Ben Rich. There's some pretty amazing stories in there. My favorite, believe it or not, my favorite part of the book was probably something that everybody else missed, but it was they kept all their test flights of the SR-71 were coming back with busted screws, right? And they couldn't figure out what was the tops of the screws were breaking off in flight. And they were looking at designs, and it turned out that the drill bits that they were using had a chemical reaction with the titanium screws and weakened the screws, right? But what they had to go through, because back then, there weren't computers. These were drawing boards and T-squares and, you know what I mean? Slide rules. That's how they designed those planes. And so to go back and try to figure that out was trial and error. They had to go back and figure it out. But it was just a pretty solid insight about how crazy that program was and what they had to go through and the stress that they did. It's such a great book. Now, okay. So that being said, all of that being said, I want to go back and focus on my question, which is we have all of these special access programs. We know, especially when we look at some of the stuff that is out there today, our new aircraft that are out, that there are aircraft that we certainly don't know about. Kelly Johnson and Ben Rich all had visions of the future. They were designing many, 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 many years ahead. Are they working with anti-gravity? Are they working with some other propulsion systems where aerodynamics don't come into play?
Well, interesting that you mentioned that because, and that kind of leads right in here. Since we're talking about Lockheed, we're talking about Skunk Works. Just want to highlight that I've got 2 crossword puzzles that I've produced, one covering Ben Rich and the Skunk Works, the other one covers the Northrop B-2 stealth bomber. I'm offering a $5,000 cash prize for anyone who can solve this puzzle before this Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. There's 116 clues on the first one, which includes Lockheed. And, we don't have time to go over all of them, Jimmy, but I thought we could go over a couple of quick ones here. And just to kind of answer your question, I've got one here that's under the subheading across. Now, this is Ben Rich here. Quote, aerospace design has passed the blank stage. This is one of the clues here. Now, if you think about what the answer to this is, it ties in directly with your question. Aerospace design has passed the blank stage. I'm not going to say what it is, but that's just one of them. So that's kind of an idea here. Do a couple more here really quickly. 40 across. The XFV-1 was this. Next one, botched the designation of the Blackbird. Kelly's unacknowledged 15th rule. 43 across. This top secret bird could do a missed approach. Next one, Lockheed was not invited to this. 45 across, Lockheed facility, which was expanded in 1985. And then the last one here, provided Ben with initial funding for stealth programs. So these are just kind of a quick few examples of this puzzle. $5,000 cash prize. You can first person to solve the puzzle correctly.
Okay, we will get the links up in Twitter to the crosswords and the $5,000 by Sunday.
Yeah,
okay.
Solve it by 11:59 p.m. this Sunday.
So Michael sent me a couple of months ago. He sent me a Bob Lazar crossword, right, with $1,000 attached to it. I was like, sure. I got this. I email you back going, this is nothing, and I said I'll donate the money. Right? I was feeling pretty cocky. Right. Didn't get it done, man. It was good. Yeah, well, that was a lot of fun.
You're not the only one.
And so. I'm a big crossword guy. But yeah, see, this is what do you make of? Okay, at the top of the hour, we're going to swing around everybody, and we're going to talk about CUFOS, J. Allen Hynek's research center up in Evanston, Illinois. That's all I'm going to say right there. We're going to talk about Project Blue Book and his cases, but we're going to talk about that at the top of the hour. But the fact that, Michael, that the TR-3B has been sighted, there are more black triangle sightings probably since Belgium to this day, of which I've even photographed one myself. There have been more sightings of that. Is the TR-3B us or theirs? Is it ET?
Well, take a look at the bottom understructure. That's the most key piece of evidence here. Look at what the eyewitnesses are reporting. A lot of these craft are tested on Thursday nights, and we're seeing the same thing over and over again. We're getting these reports of pipes, tubes, cylinders, multicolored flashing lights, electrical humming noise like a transformer or sewing machine, lights going off in sequence, not just haphazard, but the reds would go off, the blues would go off, the yellows would go off in sequence. Now, that was the case on the Hudson Valley Boomerang. That was the case on the Belgium Triangle. Also the case on the Southern Illinois Triangle, January 5th, 2000. So 3 different cases, 3 different time frames, all having this bottom understructure. And we can go into details why this might be a man-made craft. But really, it appears that the CIA, the NSA, the NRO, DARPA, they're trying to use the extraterrestrial phenomenon as a cover to hide their own deep black programs, but that doesn't explain the entire phenomenon, Jimmy. There's a faction of this phenomenon that represents the core of reality, and this is borne out by David Marler in his book Triangular UFOs, where he has these 1878 cases and prehistory cases that also include triangles as well. This long before Kelly Johnson started the Skunk Works.
So it sounds, are you suggesting that we are using ET technology? I mean, if you're going back to 1878, and I've read those accounts too, well, that's predating everything as far as flight goes. So what are we suggesting here?
I'm suggesting that to pin down the theory that we're using extraterrestrial technology in these vehicles is a very slippery slope. I tend to err more on the side of good old-fashioned American ingenuity, like the F-117A. We've got the whole backstory. We know how it was done, who was involved, the backstory on it. It's just good old-fashioned American ingenuity. So that's the approach I like to take, a much more terrestrial approach before jumping on something that's going to be a lot more difficult to prove.
Well, the first time that I saw the F-117, you and I talked about that over the weekend. The first time that I saw it, I had no idea how it flew. You know, I just didn't. I'm just looking at it, and it kind of looks aerodynamic, but not really. It doesn't have all of those things that we would normally give towards a normal aircraft. All of that stuff is gone. And, you can imagine, I guess, but it just doesn't look like it should fly.
Sure. Well, it did its thing. Now it's retired, so they have something else. And that's kind of the same thing that happened with the Blackbird. It was retired in 1990, and then they said that satellites could do the job that the Blackbird could do. But then the problem with that is satellites have predictable orbits, and when they utilize their onboard fuel, they're paperweights. So by definition, Jimmy, by default, we need an either manned or unmanned system reconnaissance aircraft to supplement the satellites. We can't just rely on satellites alone. So just by that alone, it tells you we've got something out there, no doubt about it.
Well, what do we make of von Braun and his research team with Paperclip that were saying things like, well, we had help? From out there. It seems like either they're trying to throw us off the trail of where the technology is coming from, or that this is genuine, whether it's from crashed, retrieved, flying disc or not, or there's a trade in technology. I don't know, but it seems like we had some pretty dramatic leaps when it comes to flight. I mean, dramatic steps happened between 1903 with the Orville brothers going into World War II. It's like, and it was only 3.5 decades.
There's a little-known report that was published in Jane's Defense Weekly that highlights something called the Dawson Report. I've never seen anything written in the American press about this, but it was the report that British intelligence put together when they were vacuuming up all the stealth and low observable technology that was procured by the Third Reich, and that was put into 3-ring binders, and after the Kennedy assassination, it was sent to Washington, D.C. And from that point forward, there was a close liaison between the UK government and the United States on stealth technology. It's long going, and it goes back for decades. So that just shows you that absolutely they have their own triangles as well. They've got the technology too.
Now, and I don't want anybody to get confused about Mr. Schratt here. We're talking about special access programs and our design of aircraft, but that has nothing to do with the his research into UFOs and what is going on there too as well. Two different subjects, right, Mike?
Well, two different subjects, but I guess the $64 billion question is, are they converging? Are we using technology that's recovered? And hopefully we can get into some of these crash retrieval cases and then also consider the CUFOS cases as well.
Now, to set up, before we do that, I want to get back to the plumbing, right?
Okay.
Now, I looked at a bunch of reports with you, one after another, with eyewitnesses describing what they saw on the underside of these craft. And it's one instance after another with nearly identical reports, tubing, plumbing, stuff. It wasn't smooth skin underneath.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What would that be used for?
Well, instead of me just kind of making something up and going off of nothing, let me give you the reference for this so that you don't think I'm just making this up. This is Philadelphia Inquirer, September 28th, 1984. They interviewed both Dennis Sant and Monique O'Driscoll. These are the primary eyewitnesses on the Hudson Valley boomerang case. So let me hit you what Dennis Sant here. His sighting was March 17th, 1983. Here's what he said, describing the craft here. As it hovered, I could make out dark, smoky-colored metallic beams underneath, huge eye beams. Okay, so that's Dennis Sant. And then Monique O'Driscoll here, this is what she said. It's solid. It had metal type work like cross beams and tubular things hanging down here and there. I was so close, I could have thrown a ball and hit it. And we just keep hearing it again and again, Jimmy, the same type understructure on all these different craft.
Well, and you're an aircraft historian, and when you hear a description like that, it sounds like human engineering, I guess, that something is externally mounted, but it feels like a cooling system, radiator is what comes to mind.
Well, she saw vents, correct. Yeah, she was with her daughter, also named Monique, and they were near Kent, New York, and they actually followed a light to a place called White Pond. This boomerang-shaped craft flew directly over their car. It was a CE2 case because there was electrical static on the radio. When this thing hovered over a frozen pond, it did a flat 180-degree turn and looked back at them, and then started shining these multicolored lights on the bottom of the craft, and she could see the reflection of the lights on the frozen pond below. And she said that these things went off in sequence. She could see vent work like HVAC vents, pipes, cylinders, tubes. Jimmy, we're looking at a man-made technology here.
Let's take a break right here, Michael. Yep. And everybody, okay. Michael Shratt is the guest. When we come back, we're going to talk about, well, what he has and where he got it. That's the story. And I'll let Michael tell it. It's absolutely fascinating. This is Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Michael Shratt on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas. Come join us for the 2019 Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles at the LAX Hilton. This year, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Chariots of the Gods with Eric Von Daniken, and I'll be hosting the panel with Eric. Linda Moulton Howe, Jason Martell, Billy Carson, and join George Norrie, Nassim Haramain, Robert Schock, Daniel Brinkley, Grant Cameron, Julia Mossbridge, and another 50 speakers who will be presenting at the 2019 Conscious Life Expo. Just go to ConsciousLifeExpo.com for tickets and a full conference schedule, or click on the CLE banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Go back, Lee Tappy.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with, you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Hello, I'm Julian. You're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Reclaim your active lifestyle with Angioprim. Angioprim is the original liquid oral chelation supplement. Chelation helps remove toxins, heavy metals, and cholesterol in your veins and arteries that can cause blockages. Scientific research proves the active ingredient in Angioprim has superior oral chelation action that helps promote cardiovascular health. Find out more. Go to angioprim.com. Talk to a trained consultant by calling Angioprim toll-free 877-882-7221.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Hey, it's Grace. Can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, you know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at nature'syouth.com. nature'syouth.com. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com. That's nature'syouth.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Michael Shratt, UFO researcher. One of the best. And over the weekend, I sat down with Michael. We had a great meeting, and we started to talk about Project Blue Book, which is the new series that is out on History Channel right now, centered on the life and times of J. Allen Hynek. And I'm sure with all the publicity and marketing that History Channel has put into this, that their ratings are probably pretty solid. They certainly were on the first night. I'm not so sure where the ratings are today, but they put a lot of work into this series. And for J. Allen Hynek and his family to put it all out there, now the public perception of J. Allen Hynek, Michael, is now out there, and the public is seeing this, assuming that this is all true and that it's all real. Parts of it are, for sure, but I'm not. I'm not convinced that J. Allen Hynek is crashed in a plane doing research on a UFO case. But nonetheless, he's somebody that's fascinating that we all look up to. That his research center, which was in Evanston, Illinois, 10 years ago, you went down and visited. I'm going to hand the story off to you. What happened?
Okay. Well, that's no problem. We can do that. Yeah, right around 10 years ago when I was living in Illinois, every Sunday I drive to 2457 West Peterson Avenue, where they had the Center for UFO Studies. J. Allen Hynek passed away in '86, so I never got to meet him. But Mark Rodiger was basically the curator of the collection there. Now, the first thing I noticed when I was there is that it's a completely underused resource. Out of the 3 years that I was there, kind of on a weekly basis, I found there was just nobody there, Jimmy. It was being totally underused. So out of that time period, I went through at least 40 to 50,000 cases there, dating back to the ghost rockets all the way up to modern times, and I picked out only the cases that had a detailed sketch, and a report from the eyewitness to go with it. The other ones I didn't care about. I only wanted something that had meat on the bones, and the goal was to generate a 3D color illustration of the case and then have a nice line drawing to go with it to make the case come alive. And my thought is that if someone doesn't go preserve an important part of our national history, we'll lose all of this. A lot of these cases were dead and buried for 40 years and never even been seen. So hopefully we can go over some of those cases today. What I'd like to do, though, is before we get into those, I'd like to hit you with 10 crash retrieval cases.
Okay, before we get to that, we're going to do that right now. But what is it like, Michael? Take me through that when you're looking at... Sure. Are you looking at file cabinets that are lining a room? 60,000 cases, and how? What goes through your mind?
You're looking at about 16 very packed file drawers, and then when I say packed, I mean when you open them up, you cannot put a razor blade between the cases. That's how tightly packed these were, and it was just a matter of going through each one of these one by one. And I just opened it up. I looked at the case. I looked at the text. If it didn't have a sketch, I put it right back in. I don't have time to, go through anything else. It had to have something that had a detailed drawing, illustration, some type of drawing to go with it. With those, I pulled out those, and out of all those cases, I made it come up with maybe 120 really good cases that had a drawing and text to go with it. And that's really the bottom line.
Was it done by year? How were they filed?
Oh yeah, they're done by year for sure. Oh yeah, they're all organized.
So what did you do? Did you? I would have started right at 1947. Yeah. Right? Is that what did you go?
I started in there, and then I kind of went around the Hudson Valley Boomerang area, but I covered the entire place. Not only that, I did all the periodicals, I did the books, anything that I felt might be important, and they let me do it. They let me do it. They granted me access, which I'm in debt to them because I was able to pull out some pretty good information that I don't think has ever been seen. It was just basically sitting there for 40 years, and nothing was being done with it. So I thought, let's make these come alive, and that was the goal.
I was sitting there with you, and I'm holding these copies of the originals, with these crazy dates on it, right? A 1967 case, and I'm holding the original stuff. It blew my mind, and I'm holding a copy. You were there going through one case after another, and I just can't imagine for 3 years. That is just...
Well, it took a long time. I could only do it on Sundays, so that's why it took so long. Since we're on this subject, let me hit you with one right here. Now, this is sent to jail in Hynek, January 17th, 2005, way after he passed away here. So I've got a copy of his handwritten letter and his hand-drawn sketch, which I thought was really interesting. What this gentleman described is, Jimmy, and I'm just going to go right to what he's got here on his notations. He describes seeing, keep in mind, this is March 5th, 2003, Helena, Missouri, and he describes seeing a very large triangular-shaped UFO that was 1 football field in length. It had this cross-beam and girder construction like a truss bridge, and it had a large fluorescent light on the bottom. But then he said, Jimmy, that the whole thing was fastened by rusty bridge rivets. He was kind of like comparing them to something you might see on the Golden Gate Bridge. And then he said, and I got the notation here, this is 9:50 p.m., it lasted about 10 minutes. Here's what he said, quote, "Craft caused pictures to fall off living room wall and shook entire house as it passed by. Structure of craft resembled an old truss bridge with rusted metal and vintage era rivets." So, Jimmy, in your professional assessment, do you feel that we're looking at an alien spacecraft here?
See, I can go both ways on that, and you know why I can go both ways? If something crossed space for 10,000 years, does it still look brand new? And then at the end of that journey, it goes through our atmosphere and gets a little toasty. So I could go both ways. And then the other side of it, it sounds very, very terrestrial. Like he recognized what he was looking at. It didn't seem alien to him. So I could go either way.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. And that's not the only one. We've got other cases within the CUFOS files that also identify these rivets on the bottom of these craft, like battleship steel being fastened by rivets. We've got those cases as well. I pulled those out of the CUFOS archives as well. So there's at least 12 cases that identify that kind of a technology within the file itself.
What do you think? And then I want to get to these 10 crash retrieval cases. You've been watching Project Blue Book. I find it very cool. It's very entertaining. If you take it at that level, you're in a safe zone, right? Okay, you're in a safe zone. What's your take on the new series?
I actually like it. I think the period correctness of the documentary, docudrama, I think that fits. The form, fit, and function seems to go. The acting is pretty solid. All in all, I like it. I think they're doing a great job. They've kind of missed the boat. Even Richard Dolan had chimed in on this, and some of the accuracy of the way they've portrayed these cases was certainly off, and Frank Frascino will certainly back up on this regarding the Flatwood Monster case. But all in all, I think they're doing a pretty good job.
You also just recently met with Alan's son, Paul, right?
That is correct.
And what's Paul's take on the series?
I didn't ask him about the series, but we definitely covered some of his father's cases. It was kind of like I delivered some mail to him that was addressed to his father that was 40 years late. So hopefully he was glad to get some of those cases.
Right. Well, we'll see. The next episode, it aired last night. Did I miss it?
The next episode airs tonight.
Tonight, so we'll check it out after the show tonight. Okay, these 10 cases. Let's start. I've got a list here. Is it the same as what I'm looking at?
You should be looking at the same thing now. I don't think I broke them down in detail for you, but I definitely want to talk about some of these cases here. Now, The reference for this comes from the Leonard Stringfield dictation notes. So that's the reference for this. And just so that we can get the ball rolling on this. Now, the first case involves a U.S. Marine who claims in December 1963, he guarded a flying saucer at an undisclosed location for 2 weeks. And a little bit of background on this gentleman. He's married with 4 children. When this occurred, he was in his late 40s, so maybe 47 or 48 at the time. He was a U.S. Marine between 1960 to 1966. He was a corporal, and his MOS, or military occupational specialty, was in weapons technology.
Okay.
So that's kind of a basic background on this gentleman.
All right.
So he claims that he boarded this plane with, so you can just get the sight picture here, it had no windows, and he flew with a few other guards 3 hours from Cherry Point, North Carolina, MCAS, Marine Corps Air Station, to an undisclosed location. To this day, he would not reveal where it was. So I don't know where it was. It could have been a naval facility, could have been a U.S. Air Force facility, but he would not reveal the location of where this went down. So I'm thinking, okay, Cherry Point, North Carolina, 3 hours. Where would that take you? Well, it could take you to somewhere on the western states. That's perhaps within range. Now, I'm not saying this took place at Area 51, but 3 hours from that location, that might get you in the Nevada, Southern California region. It's possible. So
well, it depends on what kind of plane, too. If he was in a prop, could have been right.
He didn't say.
Could have been right, Pat.
He didn't say.
Could have been right, Pat.
He didn't say what kind of plane it was. So now when he arrived, he was brought into this facility, and he was basically told to guard this flying saucer that was 40 feet in diameter, 15 feet at the center portion was the thickness there, for 2 weeks. And he was granted an interim top secret security clearance. He didn't know if this was a new crash retrieval or if this was something they had for many years. But later on, I think we'll see that it perhaps could have been a new crash retrieval. It was completely seamless. It had a polished aluminum exterior surface. It looked like a hamburger, Jimmy. It had kind of like a hamburger configuration. Now, this thing was propped up about 5 feet off the floor with these wooden planks. And again and again and again, I'm getting these reports of these flying saucers that are examined by U.S. technicians that are being propped up on planks. At least 5 separate stories of the same type description here. Now, here's the other thing. They had built a series of scaffolding around this entire craft so that these white lab coat technicians could see this thing up close at eye level, so they could get a real good look at this. So you can imagine the scaffolding that they built around this thing. Now, he said that there were seams on the bottom that made up what looked like an entry hatch, but Jimmy, he said that these seams were so close you could not put a razor blade between them. They were completely integrated into the bottom of the vehicle. The same type description we hear at the Giza Plateau, where you have these limestone granite blocks. You couldn't put a razor blade in the center. That's exactly how this gentleman described this thing.
So no landing gear. No landing gear.
No landing. No, just picture a hamburger, and this thing has that's 40 feet in diameter, 15 feet thick at the center. It kind of tapers near the end, so it's kind of an elliptical thing. It had these opaque, smoky colored elliptical-shaped windows running around the outer circumference of the vehicle. And there was a 1-inch lip. He made it very clear that there was a 1-inch lip between the outer exterior of the vehicle itself and the outer exterior of these windows, this small little 1-inch lip there. It had no landing gear, no fins, no exhaust ports, no visible means of propulsion. He witnessed at least a group of technical crews wearing these white lab coat technician coats that were trying to gain access to the interior of the craft. And the entire facility had a color-coded security areas in different locations within this facility. And that was linked up to the badges that these personnel were wearing. For instance, as an example, if you had a red-colored badge, you were given total access to the entire facility and the craft itself. Now, here's what they started doing, Jimmy. They tried to breach the hull of this craft. They originally tried diamond tip drill bits. That didn't work. Then they went with cutting torches. So these technicians would put this torch on the skin of the craft near the bottom, and he was told later that it did get hot to the touch, but then when they moved it away, it made no effect whatsoever. And I thought, wouldn't this be interesting to the Pentagon and defense contractors? Wouldn't they want to design aircraft using this skin technology, impervious to enemy fire at any cost? They finally brought in two of these 18-wheeler tractor-trailer trucks with these massive generators on board the flatbed that had these two thick electrical cables that went in this facility, and they were trying to use lasers to breach the hull of this craft. They tried 5 times on the seams and then 1 time on the lower left-hand portion of the craft. And when they shone this laser on this bottom section, it bounced off and reflect off the curved section and hit their ceiling rafters and did some damage, Jimmy, according to this Marine. And so this is what he's describing here.
Now, did you mention a hatch?
Yes. He said he could see what looked like the outline of an entry hatch on the bottom third of the craft.
But they never got through it. They tried to breach it, but they couldn't get. Did they ever have access?
Yeah, I want to get into that. It doesn't appear that they ever got in. That's why I think that this was a new crash retrieval, because why would they let this thing sit for decades without trying to breach the hull? So it appears, don't know for sure, but it appears that this was a new CR case. Now, here's the interesting thing. There was a white circle that was taped off on the floor directly under the outer circumference of this vehicle. And basically, he was told to shoot to kill anyone who tries to breach this circle. Air Force generals were not allowed to cross, and he had to stop a Secretary of the Navy from crossing the line. This gentleman was within seconds of being shot. And I actually tracked this down. So this happened December 1963, literally weeks after Kennedy was assassinated on November 22nd, 1963. It turns out that Secretary of the Navy at that time was November 2nd, 1963 through November 28th, 1967 was a man by the name of Paul H. Nintz. He died in 2004. So, Jimmy, this could have been the exact gentleman that tried to breach this outer right-hand circle that was painted on the floor.
Now, this was in 1963. When did Stringfield take the report?
Let's see. Probably around 86.
86.
That would have been the time frame.
That is a fascinating case. Okay, let's go to that's absolutely incredible. And let's jump to 1951. Leroy Gordon Cooper. Oh, okay.
Okay. Let's continue down the road here. We got a little bit more to go on this one. So that was the Secretary of the Navy. The last day that he was there, he saw them putting this craft on an 18-wheeler flatboy truck, and they were putting tarps and chains over the top, and they were moving it from place to place, from base to base. And Jimmy, it appears that that's one way that they're able to keep security lockdown on these, because they never keep any one vehicle at any one place at one time. They keep moving these things from place to place.
Right.
Yep. And he was told, when he saw all this taking place, he was told, you saw nothing. And he knew of a few other crash retrieval cases that he heard secondhand from some of the technicians. And one included a case where 3 bodies were pulled from the craft. They were 39 inches tall. They had no thumbs. And he said, quote, we've got quite a few bodies in craft now. And he heard civilian scientists talking about, quote unquote, aliens in this coded jargon. And he finally put 2 and 2 together. And that's when it dawned on him that they weren't dealing with a man-made craft. This was a reverse engineering program. It finally dawned on him at that time. The craft was being moved to an underground facility that he was told in the western United States, and it's known only by its grid coordinates. So I don't think it's Area 51. I think it's something else, like 2282 or something, or a lat and lawn designation. That's what I think he was referring to here.
Very interesting.
This particular Western facility where he was told this craft that he was guarded was going to, he said, featured these sliding panels with vegetation on top to camouflage its location. And when the doors opened, they revealed these helipads that lowered into the ground like these aircraft carrier elevators.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he said that this was part of. And then upon release, he had to sign a 10-10 agreement, meaning that he'd have a 10-year prison term and a $10,000 fine if he talked about what he saw. And just quickly, I want to talk about morality that he discussed as well. First of all, Jimmy, he doesn't feel, point blank, he does not feel that the world would freak out if the governments of the world disclosed the truth about UFOs. He absolutely does not feel that there'd be a massive freak out whatsoever. But then he also said, which I think is interesting and timely, that if the bodies in the craft were put on display, there'd be a cross-section of society that would stay at home and watch football, just like the Super Bowl is Sunday.
Really?
Yep, that's what he thought. So what this means, and I've tried to bring this up in other interviews as well, is that from our own U.S. military officer, U.S. Marine, we have been green-lighted for disclosure. So the NSA, the CIA, the NRO, other spook groups, you're cleared to go. You're cleared for launch. We have been green-lighted for disclosure. Let's roll on this. During the Bush administration, they had something, Jimmy, called the Cosmic Journey. You might have recalled this, where there was this plan to have a very interesting exhibit that included crash retrieval bodies, UFOs, debris, and it was going to go from state to state, maybe even country to country, and brief the general public on what they knew about UFOs. It never happened. It never happened. What I thought is...
Yeah, go ahead. We've got 1 minute before the break, Michael. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. All right, now he was asked, what did they learn? What were the lessons learned about this? And his quote was, not much. So that leads me to believe that, Jimmy, they never even got inside this thing. They never, with the diamond trip drills, with the cutting torches, with the lasers, they never even got in to breach the hole. So there wasn't many lessons learned, according to this Marine.
There are, when you go and jump on Google Earth and right. Take a look across the United States and get west of the Mississippi, there are bases upon bases upon bases out in the middle of nowhere.
Of course.
Right? And here in Southern California, you jump around not only the military stuff and look at China Lake. China Lake, the largest naval base in the world, and it's in the middle of the desert, right? There isn't a drop of water there. But the private corporations that have all of their research facilities and radar installations and what they are doing, they're it's bristling. It's all over the place. So the opportunity to jump from base to base and not be seen doing it, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. Yeah, there's hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yep, it could be anywhere within that 3-hour radius by plane. So that just could be maybe somewhere further southern east, MacDill Air Force Base area, something in there. But one of the couple last points here, and we'll wrap this particular case up, though, is that before this thing was shipped out, and one time when he was alone within this facility, Jimmy, he took out his small Minox camera and he took a photograph of this thing.
And where is it?
It was lost in a flood back in '83. However, I was able to secure detailed copies of his original hand-drawn sketches of this craft directly from the Marine. And then what I've done is, I'm not waiting for the government to disclose the information. We got to get drastic with this. If we don't do something drastic, we're going to lose our history. So what I've done is I've taken those sketches from the Marine, I've cleaned them up in AutoCAD. We've got kind of a mini disclosure here, and those are the files that I sent you. Those are directly cleaned up drawings from the 1963 Marine original sketches.
Yeah,
That's
Rita,
what the craft looked like.
Rita, go ahead and post that up in Twitter. This is an exclusive for everybody. We're going to get that image posted up right now. And let's take our break. This is Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Michael Shratt. When we come back, the 1951 Gordon Cooper UFO intercept. This is incredible. We talked about it over the weekend. I'll be right back. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. Do you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
If you have hard water, the lime scale not only leaves white spots, it clogs pipes and breaks down appliances, costing you hundreds of dollars in energy and wear. Eliminate lime scale and other water issues like brown staining and bad odors with HydroCare water products, available from Wave Home Solutions. Wave's affordable water systems don't use salts or chemicals. You'll love the way your water tastes, smells, and looks. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Are you intrigued by paranormal talk radio? You'll love the new paranormal radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the paranormal radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the paranormal radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Michael Shratt. We just posted up in Twitter. It's flying by now. Everybody's retweeting. but the images from the 1963 Marine UFO encounter and Michael's drawings of that. And this is the thing. Michael and I were sitting there. We talked for a few hours. And he's got literally probably, I'm going to say 500 cases sitting in front of me in this binder. And we got pretty deep into, I don't know, 10, 20, maybe 30 cases. We didn't even dent that binder, Michael. We didn't even dent it.
Keep in mind, Jimmy, that's one of 197 binders total.
That's insane to me. Insane. And it was just one case after another. The majority of them I had never heard of. And that's what's so incredible here. It's your research and how you handle this, Michael. It's just you deserve a medal. We'll figure something out. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But what I want to stress is that I'm not making these up. They all have paperwork to back it up. So these have a historical legacy and lineage behind them.
Yeah, and it was one case after another where I'm going, okay, I've got the top page, I've got the report, then I've got the witness drawings, and then a photograph with every single case that you have. Just incredible. Okay, now we discussed this next one, the 1951 Gordon Cooper UFO intercept. One of the most incredible cases, and we all know Gordon Cooper. We've heard his statements on UFOs, and his position on the subject for sure. But most of us don't know about this 1951 UFO intercept.
Okay, so let's kick this off, Jimmy. We're talking about Gordon Cooper, one of our original Mercury astronauts, and out of all the astronauts that had talked about UFOs, by far, Gordon Cooper is the most outspoken, by far. And then, Jimmy, on March 27th, 1978, he was on the Merv Griffin show, and he made a series of shocking comments that totally rattled the audience. And I'm just going to hit you with some of the things that Merv had said here. Now, this is Merv Griffin speaking, March 27th, 1978. Quote, "There's a story going around, Gordon, that a spaceship did land in Middle America, and there were occupants and members of our government were able to keep one of the occupants alive for a period of time. They've seen the metal of the aircraft, and they know what the people look like. Is that a credible story?" And then Gordon comes back here, "I think it's fairly credible. I would like to see the time when all qualified people not trying to make a dollar selling some weird stories could really work together to properly investigate these stories and either refute or prove them." Then Merv came back and said, "Do you believe that UFOs are coming to Earth or have come to Earth in the past?" Gordon Cooper, quote, "I believe they have and are on a regular basis." So that brings us to 1951 when he was assigned to an air base in West Germany. And he remembered the week when an entire fleet of these dish-shaped craft passed over the base at that time. And this happened like on a daily basis. The first day, it was seen by a weatherman who noticed these strange objects flying at a high altitude. Later, the entire fighter group saw them as well. And here's what Gordon Cooper had to say about this. Quote, "Unlike fighters, they would stop in their forward velocity and change 90 degrees, sometimes in the middle of their flight path." So they were flying, Cooper and his fellow pilots were flying F-86 Sabrejets and F-84s, and they tried to intercept these craft, but were absolutely not able to catch up to these things. No doubt about it. Here's what he said here, Jimmy. Quote, "We could never get close enough to pin them down, but they were round in shape and very metallic looking." So coming from one of our astronauts, I feel it's reliable testimony.
It's as reliable as it gets. And there's something else about Cooper, Gordon Cooper, that I always think about. He had a genuine concern in his eyes when you look at his face when he discussed UFOs, but there was something else too that I thought was telling. He always seemed a little bit nervous, scared. He saw things, and it shook him to his core. I think it affected Gordon for the rest of his life. I don't think he was ever the same.
Yeah. Well, who was building this in 1951 that could outpace the F-86?
Yeah,
what
I know.
technology was being used, right?
And here we have Gordon Cooper, true bona fide American hero. American hero, one of the original astronauts. That's it. And if you can't depend on his knowledge, his eyes, he's a fighter pilot. And now he's an astronaut. So he's gone through all of the psychological testing and background and medical stuff that you can possibly go through at the highest levels on this planet at that time. There were no exceptions to it. So for him to have this kind of testimony and make these kinds of statements, we have to take Gordon Cooper at his word. We have to.
I believe you totally. Yes, I think it's reliable. We can bank on it.
So, okay, what happened? Let's continue with this. Did he file a report?
Let's continue on.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's continue. This next case also involves Gordon Cooper. This is 1957. This is one of those legendary cases within ufology.
Oh, is this Edwards Air Force Base?
Yeah, this is Edwards Air Force Base, 1957. He was a project manager at Edwards at the time, and he assigned a group of photographers to a remote portion of the base for the purpose of installing this precision landing instrumentation. They had motion picture film cameras with them, and they were recording these precision landings. And let me just hit you with what Gordon Cooper stated here. Quote, while the crew was out there, they spotted a strange-looking craft above the lake bed and began taking films of it. Okay. Then he goes on, quote, hovering above the ground, and then it slowly came down and sat on the lake bed for a few minutes. And this whole thing, Jimmy, was caught on film. They got this on motion picture film reel, no doubt about it. It was about the size of a vehicle, maybe around 30 feet in diameter, according to Gordon Cooper. It was shiny silver in color. Just before it landed on the dry lake bed, it extended these 3 landing gear legs, and then it touched down there. The camera crew got within 20 yards of it before it departed, and Gordon Cooper did not physically see the craft himself. But once the film was developed inside Edwards' facility, the photo lab there, he ran it through a projector at least 12 times and held up the film. He did see the craft on the film, but he didn't see the actual craft physically. And then he went on to say here, not too many people saw it because it took off at quite a sharp angle and just climbed straight out of sight. And at that point, Jimmy, I think you know what happened from there. An Air Force courier, we believe from Andrews Air Force Base, was sent to Edwards Air Force Base and a briefcase there. This film was put into the briefcase. It was handcuffed to this courier and either sent to Andrews Air Force Base or Bolling Air Force Base, or perhaps somewhere in the Pentagon, like the 5th floor of the Pentagon's D ring. Could have been somewhere there. Bottom line is they must have a warehouse, Jimmy, full of this information. The gun camera footage, the 8x10 glossies, maybe the alien autopsy reports, reports from pilots that have seen these things, the kind of bombshell physical evidence that we need to move this field forward. It was stored at this location and probably dozens of others around the country.
Holloman. I want to see Holloman.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see Holloman, man. I want to move on to Jackie Gleason. And, the reason why I think Jackie Gleason is so important here is that first off, his relationship to Richard Nixon. Okay, we know about that's urban myth, urban legend today for sure. But Jackie built his house to look like a flying saucer, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you don't do that unless you're motivated beyond words, right? He literally built a flying saucer house. I think it's still out there. I think it's still out there.
Yeah. Okay, so the background research on this one is, and there's a little bit to tie in on this. Leonard Stringfield, he received a letter from an airman based at Homestead Air Force Base who claims to have seen a craft in one of the hangars sometime around 1979. So there is possibly some supporting evidence to this case. Now we're talking about the famous Jackie Gleason alien body UFO encounter at Homestead Air Force Base. Allegedly took place February 19th, 1973. Now, the part of this story, now this thing is legendary within ufology, as you know. The part of this story that is true and can be verified is the fact that both Jackie Gleason and President Richard Nixon did, in point of fact, attend this charity golf outing. That part of the story is true, no doubt about it. We also know that Jackie Gleason was a huge paranormal buff. He loved UFOs. He has a massive UFO book collection that's been donated to the University of Miami there. And as you mentioned, he did build a house in Peekskill, New York, called the Roundhouse at the cost of $800,000. So that part of the story absolutely checks out. So, Jimmy, somewhere around the ninth hole, the subject of UFOs came up, as it sometimes does. And then later that evening, President Nixon was said to have shown up at Gleason's house alone, driving his own car. And he says, Jackie, I think I can help you with some of the things that we were discussing on the golf course this afternoon. So Richard Nixon drives Jackie Gleason to Homestead Air Force Base. He's cleared through the security guards. And then under an armed guard escort, Gleason was kind of treated to a tour of a secret repository and shown debris of what they felt was a crashed UFO in these large storage containers. And this is believed to have been through a crash retrieval that was being kept in this large room or warehouse area. He also recalled seeing what he termed, quote, 6 glass-top Coke freezers with small, quote, childlike beings inside that measured about 2 feet tall. There were at least 2 other freezers there that contained the mangled remains of figures that looked much older, like they'd been in sort of some type of crash of some sort. And then when Jackie Gleason was driven back by Richard Nixon to his home around 11:30 p.m., Gleason was visibly shaken. He threw himself down on his armchair, and Jimmy, he was a changed man at that point. From that point forward, he was a totally changed man.
The first time that I saw a star move in the sky, right, and stop, the first time that happened, I almost passed out. I mean, because we're all, emotionally invested into this subject, and we read and we research and and our friends and all of that. But the moment that something like that, now it's happened to me so many times. It's just fun now. But the first time, I know what Jackie was going through, because you've invested your personal time. You're emotionally tied into this, but you go and you get confirmation, you're changed. It's an epiphany. It's a brand new day.
It doesn't become real until it happens to you personally.
That's it.
So yes, I agree. Mm-hmm.
And then he went and built a house. Right.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next case here. This involves the USS FDR aircraft carrier. This is CVA-42. This is late 1958, Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now keep in mind, this is the first aircraft carrier to carry nuclear weapons on board.
Now, was this the report that I went through?
Yeah, we did go through this
with the drawings, right? With the drawings of the aircraft carrier. Okay.
That's correct. So this took place at night during a shakedown cruise. Primary eyewitness is a man named Chester Brzezinski. He was assigned to the FDR in July of 1958. He worked in the repair detail. So sometime around 9 p.m., there was a significant commotion that began spreading below decks. All these naval personnel started rushing up the ladder to get to the flight deck. And once they were topside, there were at least 25 naval personnel there that reported kind of like a small light that appeared to be following the ship. And then it started increasing its rate toward the ship itself. This thing made no sound whatsoever, and it maneuvered unlike any known aircraft at the time. It started descending toward the flight deck, and it parked itself, Jimmy, 100 feet off the flight deck, visible to all these naval personnel below. This thing was about 100 feet in length, a cigar-shaped craft. Along the side of it, it had a series of rectangular-shaped portholes with what they termed figures or beings looking back at them of the naval officers below. And he said that one of these beings kind of leaned up to the window and put his hand over his head like he was waving at the naval officers below. This is all within visual range here. Now, this is a CE2 case because the naval personnel, they could feel the heat emanating off this craft being radiated on their faces. So it puts this in the category of a CE2. Just before departing, this entire cigar-shaped craft turned an orange color and then departed at a high rate of speed without making any sonic boom at all. So this is the USS FDR case.
Now, in this report with his drawings, I saw one thing that was curious. I brought it up to you. In his drawings of the aircraft carrier, he's got a group. He draws stick figures of a group of witnesses on the flight deck. And I think in the report, what I read, the handwritten part, pointing towards the group, he said approximately 25 witnesses.
Correct. It says here on the sketch, the wording is a little weird. Me plus 25 men seen this.
Yes. That's what it said. Right.
Yep. So this is a multi-witness case that was a CE2 because there was physical effects.
A pretty incredible case, and his recollection, the drawings, and the way that he has laid it out. It's always truth is in the details, and it's all right there. That's a fantastic report. The first time that you got your hand on Stringfield's report. Oh, by the way, I'm going to tell everybody. I'm holding the report. I look down at the bottom. I go, man, it's signed by Leonard Stringfield. I'm holding it in my hand, and that report was dated when? 1967?
The encounter took place in late 1958. That's when it took place.
Yeah, the report was 67, I think.
I've got to pull the file here.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fine.
It doesn't matter. But holding a historical document like that for me was pretty cool. For you to handle the originals and look through those, it's just got to be exhilarating. Adrenaline rush.
Well, to see the sketches, yeah. I mean, that was nice to see the sketches. It was one of those cases where there was at least a 5-page report plus the original sketches as well. So when you put it together, and, it's not the only time the FDR had a sighting like that. There were other UFO sightings associated with that particular aircraft. So it had a history to it.
Let's we've got 6 minutes to the break. And we've got much material to cover. Everybody, we're only a quarter of the way through here. So Michael, I hope you don't have to get up too early. We're going to end up doing some overtime tonight. Let's get now this is something else I haven't heard about. The underground facility at Fort Hood.
Yes, correct. Now, I just want to state that we've got report after report of something strange going on at Fort Hood. It appears to be the case. Now, this is a base in central Texas. It's 160,000 acres, Jimmy. We're talking about a big, large facility here. The reference for this is the Leonard Stringfield collections that included a letter from Tommy Blonde, researcher, March 3rd, 1982. And it's believed that there's a huge underground complex within Fort Hood, part of the Gray Army Airfield complex, which is kind of built into the side of a hill here. It has a camouflage section, according to the letter, a camouflage section of land that opens up like sliding doors to reveal this entrance. This is like the third time we've heard this now, of these underground facilities that have this camouflage textured exterior to blend in with the background. We've heard that, again, multiple times. And what happened here is that an Air Force captain, while stationed at Fort Hood in 1972, told Blonde in the late 1960s about this interesting event that involved a private pilot. he had to make this emergency landing within Gray Army Airfield. So just picture this. It could have been a 172. I'm not sure. It could have been a Cessna 152. But this guy lands at Gray Army Airfield, and according to the letter, he is met by a Jeep with these MPs that had they were armed with machine guns. But before they got to him, he saw this huge section of land that opened up like giant sliding doors that had this vegetation on top showing this interior corridor. The pilot was met by these MPs at gunpoint. He was ordered out of his plane. He was then blindfolded, taken into the Jeep to what he thought was this underground facility. So he's going down this corridor. He's brought into this room. He is unblindfolded, and then he's interrogated for about 2 hours. He's blindfolded again, taken to his plane, and then told to never speak about the incident. As this plane takes off, they're watching him take off. So this is essentially the crux of the case. But why I think this is important is because we've got multiple cases within Texas. For instance, Hoffman, Texas, December 29th, 1980, the Cash Landrum incident that involved 23 double-rotor CH-43 helicopters that were going with the craft itself, either ushering the craft or escorting the craft. At least one gunship was with that particular sighting, and then we have a Sikorsky Sky Crane as well. That links up with another case that was seen November 21st, 1973, also in the Texas area, not too far from this, where these two UFOs that look like bricks with worn-off edges were seen. They had a series of multicolored lights on their surface. They had a metallic-looking exterior surface that had kind of a blue-white coronal discharge that was encompassing the entire craft itself. These things were approaching from the northwest. This is back in November 21st, 1973. The two eyewitnesses heard the sound of helicopters approaching from the same location, and there was about 7 of these things all in a line. And then the helicopters took up locations above and around this UFO. And then, Jimmy, 2 jet fighter interceptors started circling above the 7 helicopters and the 2 brick-shaped UFOs that all slowly departed at a rate of speed that was not, supersonic, but it just kind of disappeared off the horizon. So we've got 2 separate cases of helicopters associated with these UFOs not too far from Gray Army Airfield, as helicopters can fly. I love the description, brick-shaped. Yeah. Yep, they were brick-shaped with worn edges. When you, as an aircraft historian, and you hear that, I can't imagine what goes through your mind, because you, like myself, I love helicopters, I love jets. I can name just about every aircraft on site. It doesn't matter what country, I can go there. I know what's from Spain and what's from Brazil and what's from here or whatever, but when you hear brick-shaped, now that's a whole nother thing for somebody to describe. They're not describing a flying saucer or a cigar-shaped craft or something else that is typical from eyewitnesses and becomes part of pop culture. And I get that. I do it myself. Yeah. But brick-shaped. They're not flying. Yep, they're not flying on the principles of aerodynamics as we know them. They're absolutely not using the Bernoulli theory of lift. The reference works and newspaper clippings that date back to 1954 indicate that multiple government facilities and universities and defense contractors were working hard to crack the gravity barrier as early as 1954. So, Jimmy, I think somewhere around that time frame, they made a breakthrough. Yeah, they absolutely made a breakthrough. And when we talk about Fort Hood, I got to take a break in 30 seconds. But we don't associate an underground facility with Fort Hood in this community. It's not mentioned as much. But when you look at Fort Hood, it's all underground. It's nothing but roads that are leading to doors and underground facilities. That's a massive, massive base. We need to take a break right here, Michael. Okay. Our guest tonight, Michael Shratt. When we come back, oh, wow.
We're going to go back to 1963. That's what we're going to do. We'll do that next. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-717-WAVE, 888-717-WAVE, or visit dryhealthyhome.com. Dryhealthyhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from River Moon. Just click on the River Moon coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B blend.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. Fade to Black, our guest tonight, Michael Shratt. Fascinating show tonight. And I just want to let everybody know, I get up and I'll walk around the bunker, stretch my legs during the break. And I walked over and picked up one of my Strats over off the wall over there and was playing it, and I broke a string. And I come back and I sit down, I put it, now I got to string that thing up. And anyway, so I sit down, there's a tweet here from Scott, and he says, Jimmy, awesome night and guest. Now pick up that guitar and talk to me. Well, I tried, but I broke a string. All right. Michael, do you play guitar? Do you have the music gene?
I don't play guitar, no.
What do you play?
I'd like to, but no, I don't play guitar.
Oh, man. Guitar is so funny. This show, Michael, and I'm sure you've appreciated this over the years, but about Fade to Black, but we talk music, we talk conspiracy and UFOs and time travel and heavy metal and food. You know, it all gets done on this show, and this audience is... You know, they get it. They get it. Before the night's out, we'll start talking tacos. Okay. Now, a flying saucer seen at Wright Pat in 1963. This is another case that I have not heard about. And I'm looking at some of the comments here that are going down on Twitter where they're saying, I haven't heard about these cases before. And this is just great stuff. Let's get to this Wright Pat UFO in 1963.
Okay, great. One thing I want to state here, though, is that the references for these are definitely from the Leonard Stringfield files, but Leonard had a strict policy that he would never reveal the identity of his sources. So it's kind of a two-edged sword. In one sense, the identities were maintained. You know, we don't know, they were protected. But on the other side, some of these cases are 35 to 40 years old, and if we don't do something soon, they'll be lost for all of history.
That's right.
So that's kind of a two-edged sword here. Now, the next case, it's 1963, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This was a captain in the Navy, and he was later a pilot for Braniff Airlines. Now, I have his name on file. We'll call him PJ, out of respect for Leonard Stringfield. This gentleman was on special assignment at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where he claimed he saw two flying saucers in a hangar. One was in plain view and propped up on a pedestal. So there's three cases now of these things being propped up.
Right.
It was about 30 feet in diameter, had no rivets that were visible, and he felt that this could have been a two-man craft. The other craft, which he did not give a dimension for, said that it could fit maybe 12 people, much larger craft. He was later called in by the base authorities and questioned, and he said, quote, I didn't see anything. So it looks like this gentleman knew the game. He knew how this was played. Like if you saw something you weren't supposed to see and then later questioned, your mandatory reply is to be, I didn't see anything. So he was kind of briefed already. He knew how to play this game. So that is the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base 1963 encounter.
Now, and Wright Pat, first off, another ginormous base. Wright Pat is not small. That is a big base. I've been there a few times. And but there's that part of it. The second part of Wright Pat is their foreign technology division. That's exactly what they do there. Aside from being an Air Force base, it's a research facility too as well.
Correct. That's correct. You know, it makes sense that the Roswell debris would go there. If they're trying to figure out how something would work, you'd want to send it there. So let's move on to the next one. UFO at Great Lakes Naval Station, 1973. Another report from the Stringfield files. This is north of Chicago.
Stop right there. Yep. I was living there in 1973. Oh, really? Okay. Well, you know, I was born there. We talked about that. I was born at the Great Lakes Naval Air Station, which is on the shore of Lake Michigan in Waukegan, Illinois. That's where I was born. I lived at Fort Sheridan, but then moved later off base right outside of the gates there at Great Lakes Naval Air Station in 1973. I was living right there. I was in I was in the fifth grade. That's where I saw the what I think was the Los Angeles Zeppelin that I was telling you about. That was in 1973. Okay. So maybe it wasn't a Zeppelin. It was something. Okay, tell me about this case. All right.
Okay. Now, the reference for this is researcher Don Jernigan. He knew a guard that was stationed there in 1973, so he has to get credit for this. This particular guard was outside a remote Quonset-style building on the northeast sector of the base. So I thought, that's interesting. Can we pin this down? So if you go on Google Maps and you type in the Naval Air Station there, and you go to 3D images, there is a Quonset-style building there on the northeast corner on the intersection of Paul Jones Street and Porter Avenue. There is a Quonset-style building. It could be. I don't know if that's the one, but it fits the description. So that part of the story seems to check out here. This particular guard, he was commanded to deliver a special message to the commander of operations and was granted access to this building. So he goes in this building. He's met with these two burly guards who escort him down this hangar. They make down this corridor. They make a left-hand turn down another long corridor, and when they get to the end of that one, it opens up into this large warehouse area. The entire inside of this area is crawling, Jimmy, with these guards holding drawn weapons. And what this guard saw was a strange teardrop-shaped craft that was 35 feet in length. It was propped up on a platform. That's 4 times now we've heard this. The body kind of was round in the front like a teardrop, then tapered back to a pointy rear end. It had kind of a ridge or lip around the outer portion of the craft. It was 10 to 15 feet in thick, and it had a silver-white glow around its exterior. Had no landing gear, no windows, no visible means of propulsion, and featured that small flange running on the outside. So some type of a craft, according to Don Jernigan, who interviewed this guard, some type of a craft was being stored at this facility in 1973.
What was the name of the street?
It is Paul Jones Street and Porter Avenue, the intersection there. You can see there's a Quonset-style.
I see it. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right here. Wow.
Yep.
Huh.
That could be the place. Don't know for sure, but it fits the description.
Wow, that's fascinating. What I saw was much bigger.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What I saw was much bigger. Now the next case, man, this is great stuff, by the way. Is there any reference, like if anybody searches any of this, like the 1958 USS FDR UFO encounter, are there references online with any of these cases?
The History Channel did a whole series on this. It's a well-known case.
Okay.
Absolutely well-known case. Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, the UFO warehouse. Charles Wilhelm, he spoke to Leonard Stringfield, gets the credit for this. He spoke to someone named Mrs. G. We're going to call her Mrs. G. She was dying of cancer. She was employed at Wright Field during the 1940s and 1950s. This is before it was renamed Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So this woman who was dying of cancer was there early on, very early on. She worked in the Foreign Materials Division. She held a top secret security clearance. And what her job, Jimmy, was to catalog any foreign materials that came into the base. And she told Wilhelm back in 1955, this happened in 1955, that she cataloged, quote, the contents taken from the interior of a crashed UFO, end quote. There were over 1,000 components, and every item was photographed and tagged. And she also stated that she saw a cart being wheeled past her that had 2 bodies on it. The bodies were 4 to 5 feet in length. They were packed in either a dry ice material or some type of chemical, something that would preserve the bodies. They were humanoid looking. They had disproportionately large heads and slanted eyes. And she basically told Wilhelm later on in 1959, about 6 months before she died, quote, Uncle Sam can't do anything to me once I'm in the grave, end quote. So hat goes off to this lady for disclosing what she saw.
Wait a minute. Okay, let's back up here. Let's talk about the historical record. Roswell and the Wright-Pat connection wasn't revealed until 1980 and after. Okay, there was no Wright-Pat alien bodies or anything that was discussed, certainly in the public, before then. She wouldn't have known anything about that. In other words, she couldn't be contaminated, right? Okay.
Correct.
So this statement was made from her and documented in 1959?
Told Wilhelm that in it happened in 1955. And it was told to Wilhelm in 1959, 6 months before she died.
That's incredible.
Yep.
That's incredible. And now, what else did she say about this warehouse?
Well, I'm just thinking the ending scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Right, that's what I was just picturing.
There's got to be boxes. These things were bagged and tagged. They were photographed. They were inventoried. There's got to be literally crates and warehouses full of this stuff, along with the gun camera footage, all the things that our good friend Wendell Stevens had talked about, all the gun camera footage from the B-29s. That's got to be stored there. We're talking about close-range B-29s with all the cameras rolling, where these 40-foot diameter dish-shaped craft were just behind the trailing edge of the main wing and just forward of the leading edge of the horizontal stabilizer, parked right near the fuselage of the B-29s with all the cameras going. They got this all on film. Those have to be seen here, too.
I have talked to probably a solid 5, maybe more, of different people that have worked, civilian and otherwise, at Wright-Pat, that have all repeated to me the same thing, Michael, which is the running joke on the base. Have you seen? Have you seen the bodies? Right? It's like it's what everybody talks about. This is the open secret on Wright-Pat. They know what's there, and people talk about it, which takes us to. Do you want to go straight into it?
Yep, we'll go into the next one here. I agree with you, Jimmy. All roads appear to lead to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Okay. All roads do.
Yep.
They really do. They really do. Okay, now, next case. Alien body seen at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base with a DC-7. Leonard spoke to a warrant officer who worked at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This is 1955. A DC-7 arrived at night at the base, and this particular warrant officer, he basically stated that he was at the right place at the right time. That's how he basically saw this. And he witnessed the removal of these 4 crates, and they were either open or had transparent covers. He couldn't quite see, either open or transparent covers. He was 15 feet from the forklift, which offloaded these crates, and they contained the bodies of 2 male alien creatures and 1 female. The beings measured approximately 4 feet in length with oversized long faces. They had a darkish green appearance, but what was interesting is he felt that the appearance could have been due to the lighting where he was. So not that these beings look like that, but they just had it due to the lighting. That could have been a possibility. They also removed several other crates from the aircraft which contained debris from the UFO that allegedly crashed. He later spoke to one of the crew members from the DC-7, which told him that 2 of the creatures were dead when taken, but one was still alive and talking in some type of a garbled language. The crewman stated that the other crates containing the debris from the crash were scheduled to be taken and delivered to Redstone Arsenal in Alabama. That's the breakdown on this case.
This was in 1953.
This is in 1955.
Oh, I thought it was 1953. Okay.
Okay. Nope. I've got the case here, 1955.
Okay, 1955. She referenced 1955. Are these the same cases?
Could be. Don't know for sure.
Both at Wright-Pat.
It makes sense they would.
Yeah, both at Wright-Pat. Now, I want to ask you this. Are we bringing these craft down? Are we bringing them down? Are they crashing on their own?
Well, difficult to say, right? We've heard reports that some of the primitive Tesla-based radar systems were bringing these things down.
Right.
I wouldn't put it past our government to pull something like that, but to prove that would be hard in every one of these cases. Some of these cases aren't actually crashes, they're soft landings, but some of them absolutely do appear to be crashes if we're to believe what Jackie Gleason saw.
We have two things immediately that come to mind. Number one, humans shoot first and ask questions later.
That's true.
That's just
true.
It's just what we do. And then the second part of this, especially 5, 6, 7 years after the ending of World War II, and entering into the Cold War with Russia and not knowing what the other side had, we would probably shoot anything out of the sky. We were probably pretty trigger happy, and then we would go and figure out what it was later. Was it Russian? Is it a flying saucer? We just don't know. But back then, there was a lot of fear that was on this planet, not only with the flying saucers, but with Russia.
Well, the fact that, if we're to believe what happened to the Marine in 1963, and that the fact that they could not breach the hull of this thing, and this whole program was a massive reverse engineering attempt, now we have to ask the question, certainly not American-built, Russian-built, German-built. I suppose it's possible, but what could the Russians have built where we couldn't breach the hull? What about the Germans? Were they working on different metals, some of the things that were quenched and were hardened? Could they have produced a metal that would be impervious to a laser, jackhammers, diamond-tip drill bits? Is it possible? We have to consider that theory as well.
Well, we have to, because even today, with all of our advanced technology with metals and metallurgy today, we can still crack it. I don't think there's anything uncrackable. Right? I'm being serious, too. I'm not playing around about that. So what would it be that was, we couldn't penetrate it back then in 1953, 1955, 1958? That makes you wonder. And then there's this. The $1 million question that, E.T., spends 10,000 light years, travels across the universe, and they come here and they suddenly just crash. Well, this is my take. Michael, I want your take. We can't even figure out how to land on the moon or land on Mars. Right? We haven't figured out how to land on Mars. We get through that atmosphere, we're bouncing stuff that's covered in beach balls. That's our landing. That's how we're bouncing stuff off of the surface of Mars because we can't figure out how to get there. Most of the stuff crashes, and we feel happy if we get something on the surface of Mars and it is successful. Well, it's the same thing for anybody else that's coming here to Earth. They're not familiar with the atmosphere or getting through our atmosphere and then getting through the turbulence and figuring out how to fly here. It's not that simple. You're surprised when you get here. And I'm just trying to be logical.
Well, there's always incidents involving aircraft carriers on a monthly, daily basis. We lose aircraft all the time, F-18s, F-4s, Vietnam, all the time. So is it possible they lose them too? Maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe they're not all that far in advance. Maybe they're only 100 years advance. If that's true, then we could conceivably hear about crashes.
Now, what do you think, before we get to the break, when we come back, we'll talk about J. Allen Hynek and the stuff that you pulled out of Evanston, Illinois. But what do you think is ultimately going to happen with disclosure? It seemed like we cracked the door on it back in December of 2017, and then the brakes were just pumped and everything stopped. How close are we to something official?
Well, instead of giving you my opinion, let me give you the opinion of Gordon Cooper. He felt that the only way that this would ever break is if the intelligence community basically hands this information over to the scientific community as a united coalition, and then they come together as a group. That's the only way this is ever going to come out, is if this technology is somehow, brought within the fold of the scientific community, and then they come together as a united coalition. It'll be a reliable source. It'll be reliable engineers, personnel who are bringing this forth, and then it'd be something that the general public could bite down on because it's coming from credible sources. Anything short of that, anything short of the physical evidence that we need to bring it forward, it's not going to happen. So that's the way that Gordon Cooper felt that the only way that this would actually take place.
Well, Avi Loeb, the professor out of Harvard, released another statement, and I actually exchanged an email with him earlier today. And the Oumuamua object that came in, which is now circling around Jupiter and getting ready to head out of our solar system, he's saying it's a solar sail, that it's only 1 millimeter thick, that it's not a rock, and that it is debris from an alien spacecraft flying, cruising at an extremely high velocity that an asteroid simply just wouldn't do. And he's sticking by his guns. When he makes a statement like that, and then we have fast radio bursts, and we have all this other stuff that's coming out of the media right now about contact with ET. Is there a message ultimately that's being sent here to us?
You can feel the vibe. There's an aura going on right now. It does feel like it's picking up. I don't know where it's leading, but we're feeling something for sure.
Yeah, and the media for the last, like forever, right, didn't touch this subject. Now you can go on any mass media website today or turn on the TV, and there's something there about alien contact.
Right. Well, you'd hope that the giggle factor is slowly eroding. We'd hope that that's the case. So we're heading in that direction.
Well, when Tucker Carlson and his bow tie is talking UFOs on Fox, I think we're getting close. I'm being serious, too. He's the last guy that I thought would straight face the UFO subject. But he's straight facing it. He is not. There is no giggle factor. They're not cueing the X-Files music anymore.
Yeah. Well, you can't argue with our fighter pilots. If we hear about Gordon Cooper seeing these and it's corroborated by other pilots, then you can bank on it. It's a done deal.
Yeah, I totally agree.
No need to be ashamed at this point.
When we come back, let's take a break right here. When we come back, J. Allen Hynek. That's right, Project Blue Book. I am so jealous about what Michael Shratt was able to do for 3 years, 10 years ago, and that's go through all of the CUFOS files there in Evanston, Illinois, and procure the good stuff. We'll talk about all of that when we come back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Tappy.
Hi folks, CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and my family is safe because of Numana Emergency Food Storage. Just go to the Numana banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code Jimmy10.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
This is Kristen, Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Michael Shratt, moving straight into overtime. Michael he's been talking about this for a while, but he told me about him going to Evanston, Illinois, going into the CUFOS offices for 3 years, 10 years ago, 60,000 files in file cabinets, and spending the time to go through all of those files and yank the ones that were special. And I saw a few of those over the weekend. I have no idea how much material you're sitting on, Michael. But when you tell me, this is the picture I want to paint for everybody. When you tell me, okay, I've got 10 cases I want to talk about that I was able to pull from there, I have to just stop and just pause and just wonder, what would stand out of those 60,000 cases for you. Sure. So let's go to number one.
Okay, let's go to number one. Okay, so this is a case I pulled out of the CUFOS files, which I think is the best one I've got, just for the caliber of the witness and what he described. I've got the cover letter right here. It's dated December 24th, 1974. It has been buried. I don't think anyone has ever even seen this case. Letter is dated December 24th, 1974. Dr. J. Allen Hynek, and I'm just going to read this cover page here. It's not too long. Dr. Hynek if it would be any interest to you or your associates, I can forward to you a report concerning an observation of 2 UFOs in low-altitude flight, with attention to a few particular details which might be of some value. This is not a questionable blinking light, color changing, what is it sort of sighting, but a very close-up look at 2 pieces of strange but solid hardware in full operation. The incident is 2 years old, but it is verifiable. As to being a qualified observer, I've held a commercial pilot's license since the early 1940s, am an ex-Navy pilot trained in instant recognition, a Coast Guard search and rescue pilot, and have some trans-Pacific passenger carrying service included. Should be sound background for any sky watching. Possibly anything I can report will merely be repetition. However, I think some of it might be useful. No notoriety and no publication of any information sent is desired. Please advise if interested, and I'll leave his name out. But this is the cover letter for this case. And what this gentleman saw, along with his wife and their daughter, was incredible. He described, included in this case was a 4-page handwritten description of the craft itself, actually 2 of them, and then at least 2 pages of detailed sketches of what this thing looked like. Just incredible. Break it down for you here. December 26, 1972, Maracaibo, Venezuela, 8 p.m. Ex-Navy pilot, his wife and daughter saw this. They're living on the top floor of their 14th floor apartment, and what they saw facing northeast at the time was what they originally thought was kind of a craft with an engine fire. He thought maybe this might have been an airliner with an engine fire or something. He wasn't sure, but he saw kind of this orange engine fire approaching his location. As it got closer, he immediately thought, well, this is no commercial airliner whatsoever. And this thing got within 150 feet of all 3 witnesses. They got a very clear view of the underside of this thing. It was elliptical in shape, and this can be seen on that Legacy of UFO case file drawing that I sent you. It's within that drawing. You can see what this thing actually looked like. Elliptical in shape, round in front, tapered in back. The extreme aft end was completely cut off, like square, an abrupt cutoff. Attached to the bottom of this craft, sort of forward of the center line, were these 2 36-inch diameter opposed hemispherical type insulators with 2 opposing electrodes. And there was about a 5-inch gap between these 2 electrodes, and this continuous electrical arc was going back between these hemispheres.
Wow.
After the craft disappeared over the horizon, Jimmy, a second identical craft came right in back of this one. So they saw 2 of these things. Just incredible. Now, around, if you go back 1/3 from the leading edge of this craft, all around both left, right, and rear of this craft were these cast iron looking exhaust ports that had 2 ports per grouping. So there was 4 going along the entire outer circumference of this vehicle, and he described what looked like an S-shaped electrical arcing flame coming out of these exhaust ports. As this thing neared the edge of town, accelerated and then disappeared from flight, following the same direction as the first one. So that's this case, December 26, 1972.
I have no idea. I'm trying to picture in my mind's eye what is going on here. The electrical, man, I hate to say the word Tesla, but I feel something there. And the electrodes, very, very strange description of this craft. That doesn't sound like ours.
When you read this guy's description, you know, we've kind of covered it here, and you see his drawings, you will be hit with the fact that this gentleman's telling the truth. No question about it. This is not a joke. This is not science fiction. Let me read you just one sentence at the end of his description here. He says, much more description could be given, but would serve little purpose without something tangible, and the main points have been touched upon. However, may I add that these two craft described were identical, finite pieces of hardware, and probably not too far beyond something any of our top aircraft plants could produce.
What year? What year was this?
This was 1972, December 26, 1972, Venezuela.
And is this what I'm looking at here? You actually gave me
yes, correct.
A drawing.
You've got a copy of it.
This is it right here, and I have no idea. This is crazy. And the S-shaped exhaust.
Correct.
And Blue Book was closed at this point.
Well, this is not in the Blue Book file.
That's right.
This had been buried within the CUFOS archives for years. And the second I pulled it out, I go, I know no one's seen this one. It's so buried. And I immediately started going on it immediately. Immediately started modeling it up, doing a nice AutoCAD drawing. I wanted to make this case come alive, but this guy did a great job on his sketches. They're just a fantastic job, and he describes it in excruciating detail.
How big? Okay, so it's cut off at the end, but it's kind of a teardrop egg shape. I'm holding it up to the cameras so everybody can...
50 feet in length, 40 feet in width.
Okay. And so there it is there. Again, what was it, 80 by 50?
50 feet in length, 40 feet in width.
50 by 40. That's an incredible case. And something that when you pulled it out, you've never heard of this case before.
Not until I saw it the first day when I was there at CUFOS. When I pulled it out of the file, I just immediately recognized that this has never been seen. This configuration is one of the most unusual configurations within ufology, and it's just crazy. It's just unbelievable. And the fact that it has these, now they weren't necessarily cast iron, they look like cast iron, but he said that it looked like tongues of flame, S-shaped tongues of flame were coming out of these exhaust ports all around, the left hand, right hand, back, side, but they weren't flames. They were like these electrical arc wave patterns coming out of this thing, not necessarily flames, which I thought was very interesting.
Now, what's the next case? And I'm hoping it's going to be the Sanagali case.
Well, the next case is actually, now, within the CUFOS archives, they had handwritten letters, they had NICAP files there, they had APRO files there as well. A lot of obscure APRO files were also part of this collection. Now, I want to go over one case that I think is extremely interesting because of just the size of what this primary eyewitness identified. Now, when we first met Saturday, I showed you the illustration of what this looked like. Now, this is February 28th, 1983, Mobile, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
The primary eyewitness is driving home from a dinner engagement somewhere around 9 p.m. When she heard this explosion. Her whole car started vibrating. Now, this is also on that legacy drawing I sent you. It's on the upper row, about, I think, 3 over from the left or something. Very large craft. So she pulls over to the side of the road. She leans kind of out of her car door, under her car, to see if the transmission fell out. Everything seemed to be fine. She got in her car. She went another half mile forward. And then to her northeast, she sees this large 210-foot-long craft that's 80 feet high, moving toward her at about 4 to 5 miles per hour. And she said, quote, it had this sound like the whipping of the wind or a tornado. When it got really close to her location, it stopped and was completely silent. So she got out of her car to get a better look at this thing. The entire sighting lasted about 5 minutes. And just to go over a brief description of what this thing looked like, the upper deck of this craft had this curved, transparent window, and she could see 20 to 30 people inside that were walking around. Behind that curved window was a curved wall that was white in color. And these beings that she described were kind of pale-skinned. They were dressed in these one-piece, tight-fitting flight suits. They were about 5 feet 10 inches tall, had no hair. The tops of their heads were a little bit more prominent than ours. Below this deck was an opaque window that was indented into the craft, and it had tinted windows. I'm not making this up. This is directly from the APRO report. Sounds crazy. There was, below this window was a door that was closing from right to left. And kind of right within this door area, she said that there was this black asphalt road that went inside this craft. Looking on the left side of this opening, she saw a wall that had these tubes, pipes, and cylinders on it, just like the bottom understructure of the Hudson Valley Boomerang, the Belgium Triangle, and the Southern Illinois Triangle. So now we're looking at 12 separate cases with this same tubes, pipes, cylinders within these vehicles. The entire exterior of the craft had these portholes and rivets that appeared to be fastening this whole thing together. She looked through one of these portholes that was lighted, and she reported seeing these huge I-beams, kind of identical to what Dennis Sant had seen in his sighting near Brewster, New York, during the whole Hudson Valley Boomerang wave. The bottom of the craft was kind of tapered upward in tiers like a wedding cake. It got smaller as it tapered up. And this thing reminded her of a submarine in appearance. On the bottom of this vehicle, there was another one of these transparent gondolas that had these same 5'10" humanoid-looking beings dressed in these one-piece tight-fitting flight suits. Directly connected to this bottom gondola were these 24-inch by 24-inch highly polished reflective mirrors that made up a cross on the bottom of this vehicle. This is a strange craft. You just can't make this stuff up. So these were these polished mirrors on the bottom of the craft. She also noticed 4 pipes extruding from the midsection of this craft that were going out between 6 to 8 feet. She felt that these looked like guns or cannons. She wasn't quite sure. And these were surrounded by 3 to 4 foot square boxes. After that, this thing departed at a slow rate of speed near a nearby wooded area, and that's this case, 1983.
Fascinating case, yeah. But not as fascinating as the hamburger face dude. And we've got to. I made you promise that we would discuss this case, and this was 1967 in Idaho. And
you want to do that case, huh?
We have to. This is one of the. I mean, how many aliens drive a car? Right? I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, how many reports? Okay. Anyway, hold on. We're getting ahead of our skis here. This was in Ryrie, Idaho.
The Ryrie, Idaho case.
Yep. In November 2nd, 1967. And I'm holding this up to the camera. I'm going to go ahead and let you. What happened on this night?
Okay. So this is a famous case within ufology. I didn't make this up. The CUFOS archives included at least 5 pages of notes and then a detailed hand-drawn pencil sketch. So what you're holding up is a very accurate reproduction of the original sketch. This is Ryrie, Idaho, November 2nd, 1967. So this strange craft, it's not a really big craft, maybe 6 feet in diameter, 3 feet high, according to the eyewitness sketch. This craft parks itself in the front of this running car. 2 gentlemen are in the car, just like right in front of the hood section. Not too far from that, it's like pulling the car off the road into this kind of a cleared grass field area. And then the top bubble canopy of this dish-shaped craft opens up, and this 3-foot-tall being levitates out of this craft, opens up the car door. Now, this is reported in the sighting report here. He opens up the door. He pushes the 2 gentlemen over to the right side of the passenger seat, gets behind the vehicle, and it did not say in the report how he got his foot on the pedals, since he was only 3 feet tall. It doesn't say how he actually got his foot on the pedals, but he drove this car at least another quarter to half mile down the road and stopped. At that point, the gentleman on the far right-hand side of the vehicle, who is by the passenger door, opens up the door in absolute horror. He runs away, and then this being exits the vehicle, hovers back into the bubble canopy, and then this thing departs. And they had a detailed sketch And while this was occurring, and he was in the vehicle with the two gentlemen, he was making these high-pitched bird chirping noise in an attempt to communicate to the two eyewitnesses. Now, they could not decipher what he was trying to say, but they did talk about like this high-pitched bird chirping noise that this creature was making. Now, the face of this being was very odd. They said it, quote, looked like a hamburger face, very strange, rough textured face, something that we really haven't heard about within ufology. So this is the famous Rary, Idaho case, November 2nd, 1967.
Yeah, and they describe a few things that, and I went through the report with you, but there's a few things that I found very interesting. Clear dome, right? And and the two ETs could be seen sitting under the clear dome. The craft itself was only 6 feet in diameter.
That's correct. 6 feet in diameter, according to the original sketch, yes.
And 3 feet high. Right. And then when it took off, it looked like it was glowing on the bottom of it.
Yes. A green color at the bottom.
And green and orange lights that were changing color too as well.
Correct. That's also in the sketch as well.
Yeah, pretty interesting. But he drove the car.
It's a strange case.
It's a great case, and the hamburger faced alien. Okay, I think we have time for one, maybe two more. What do you want to do next?
That's fine. Okay, so let's move on to another case. We talked about this when I was there as well. This case, I think, is very significant just for the fact that the primary eyewitness described some incredible detail, just incredible detail. It's also within that legacy of UFO cases drawing that I sent you as well. Now, I call this the light bulb craft. You have a copy of the drawing.
I do. Keep going.
November 20th, 1956, Danielson, Connecticut. I've got her original 4-page report and a detailed sketch of what the craft actually looks like. It was a clear night. It was around 11:59 p.m. She saw this light approaching her house at the time. It was completely silent. It looked like a half sphere. Approximately, you could say, maybe 10 feet high. And this thing was not transparent, but translucent. He made that a point to make that this thing was not transparent, but was translucent. And it had this yellow glow coming from the interior of it. Now, here's the part where it starts getting interesting. Now, this thing came down to her location within 20 feet of her, came back up, and she got a good look at the bottom of this thing just before it nearly hit her roof as this thing departed. But she said, number one, that it had this raised section or floor that was indented 2 feet from the bottom lip of the craft. So we've got this floor here. Then she said that around the outer intersection of the craft, there were at least 24 what she called light sockets. Now, embedded within these light sockets were these large, oversized donuts. And then between these three donuts were these black Tesla coil black structures connecting these donuts that were connected to these light sockets. Now, these were rotating in a clockwise fashion. They were all multicolored. The sockets themselves were orange in color. But then she said, on the bottom of each of these three donuts, and I'm just going to hit you with exactly what she said, there were curved lines, loops and dots, dashes that looked like ancient Arabic writing. It also reminded her of what you would see at the perimeter of a Persian rug, or something like a Mayan pyramid inscription, or something similar to Aztec pottery. And this was identical on each one of these donuts that she saw, at least 24 of these. And these were all indented within that 2-foot floor section. And just the last time she saw this, they were revolving over the Connecticut Light and Power Office, and that is this case, November 20th, 1956.
Now, she says, November 20th, 1956, this dome, it's like a half a sphere.
Correct.
Half a sphere.
Correct.
The glass or the dome itself is 1 foot thick, right? So it's 1 foot thick glass. the bottom portion of it, there's a lip that goes in. These bulbs are moving around it, not moving, are positioned around. And the craft itself was 25 feet in diameter. No seams, no openings, nothing, no windows, no doors.
Correct.
Just what she saw. And the 3 donut-shaped, I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. Very interesting. You know, I can't relate this to anything. You know what?
Yeah, I know.
And what I mean by that is when I try to debunk something, Michael, and I hear somebody's description of something, I'm trying to think of something I've seen in the past or maybe that they have seen, and they are maybe embellishing or taking something very terrestrial and then trying to turn it into something that it's not. That's what I do, right? This isn't like anything. It just doesn't make any common sense.
No, she goes into great detail on her sketch. I mean, this is a beautifully drawn, hand-drawn sketch, and she's got these Peruvian rug descriptions embedded within these Tesla coil donuts. I mean, she did a fantastic job. Just a beautiful job. I bet my life on it. I know it's true. I mean, just by reading her account, she talks about the flight path, the description, the bulbs, the rotating description of how they were rotating, but just the description of these Arabic writings or Mayan pottery clay inscriptions on the bottom, I thought was historically significant.
Michael, why, or no, I should say when is this going to get digitized and go public? I understand you've got tens of thousands of pages, right? It's an outrageous amount of material that you're sitting on.
Right.
But the public needs to see this.
Okay, well, to answer part of the question, and this is not a plug, I don't get paid for any of this. During the Leonard Stringfield research, when Jan Harzan got access to the official dictation notes by Leonard's secretary, that this is 75 3-ring binders that are over at Orange County Airport, the MUFON headquarters there. That's where this information is stored. I made an agreement with Jan Harzan that I would write a book that includes detailed descriptions based directly off of the dictation notes, and then make the cases come alive via illustrations, drawings, technical engineering drawings, and make these cases come alive. So going through all 75 binders, I picked out 119 cases that I felt had some really good meat on the bones, and I put them into a booklet called Retrievals of the Third Kind, Cosmic Crashes, Corpses, and Cover-Ups. So it's kind of an homage to Leonard Stringfield. So the cases that we talked about this evening, all the crash retrieval cases, the illustrations, the drawings, some of the details are within this booklet. I'm not getting paid for it. I do it for free of charge. It's a crusade to me, but this is available on the MUFON website. The other ones that we've talked about, I've discussed within multiple YouTube presentations that I've given over the years, and that's just kind of how I roll. So it's available. It's out there for sure.
Yeah, I imagine. I'm going to talk to you off of the air. I've got something else I want to talk to you about, but so I'm going to ask you to hang on, and then and then we'll talk. But Michael, I want to thank you. An amazing show tonight. And you and I the other day, I'm pounding coffee. I didn't want that to end. That should have been like that should have been a 72-hour.
Sure. Well, there's more
woodshed.
to go. There's more to go.
I know,
we haven't
right?
even scratched the surface.
Thank you so much, Michael. Stay right there, and we'll talk to you right after I roll these credits. I've got to get out of here before the network cuts me off. Thank you so much, Michael. Michael Shratt. Michael, you just stay right there. Wow. Everybody's going, keep this going, keep this going. We just talked for 2.5 straight hours. What a conversation tonight. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Camarion. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee, Dennis, and Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, and Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2019 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can find Michael over on Facebook. His link for Facebook is over at jimmychurchradio.com. Go and click on it. Until tomorrow night, surprise guest. I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tepe.